Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the BFG podcast. As always, I'm here with Garrett. This week we're going to be...
Hi.
That's Garrett. This week we're going to be talking about our top 10 favorite actors, as well as the movies of Matt Johnson, who I hadn't even heard of until, maybe a month or two ago when you brought him to my attention. He's only got a couple of feature-length movies, and he also did Nirvana, the band, the show, which... he recommended to me, but I haven't watched the show yet. But we watched his movies, and we'll be talking about those together. But first up, we're going to talk about our top 10 favorite actors. So would you like to start, or would you like me to?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Number 10 for me is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
I love Leo. He's, always great, except for maybe, the Iron Mask, Man in the Iron Mask. That movie kind of sucks. Everything else, he's pretty solid in, and yeah, he's Leo. Everyone knows Leo. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, he's been doing this for a long, long time now.
Yeah.
He's been bringing his talent to the screen since Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
And it's it's easy to forget, you think about his big high profile movies now that he's middle-aged, but then you forget about kind of these really good roles that he had, just this knack for acting.
These tiny bit roles.
Yeah. Since he was probably early teens.
Yeah. It seems I think he was 18 then?
Yeah. So my number 10, and I know you're not going to like this, but my number 10 is Kurt Russell.
I love Kurt Russell. What do you
mean? You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought at one point you had mentioned that you didn't like Kurt Russell.
No, I'm all about Kurt Russell. What are you talking about? Kurt Russell? Really?
For some reason, I thought you had said at some point that you didn't like him.
No.
But yeah, my number 10 is Kurt Russell. I feel like he's got... he brings a certain charisma to the screen, and a lot of his movies, his persona ends up being very, very identifiably Kurt Russell.
Very masculine.
Yeah. And he can bring a different aura to the screen if he wants, but he plays to his type and he plays it really well, regardless of whether, it's Snake Plissken in Escape from LA or Escape from New York, or whether it's, the Hateful Eight. Or,
the Hangman.
Any of these different roles that he picks up, I feel like he always brings something to the screen.
He's so charismatic. That's what I love about him. He's like a tough, charismatic guy. He's kind of like a fun grandpa that you'd want to have.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my number 10.
My number 9 is Ciarán Hinds. I forgot to switch scenes. My number 9 is Ciarán Hinds. Mm-hmm. He's an Irish... character actor. He's been in there's no way you haven't seen him. He's been in There Will Be Blood. He's been in Munich. He is Mance Rayder in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. He plays Julius Caesar in HBO's Rome. Mm-hmm. He plays in all these great bit character moments, and a lot of people just don't even know about him.
Yeah,
but he's always giving a great performance every single time. I think he's a true thespian. Is one of the things he actually goes from the stage to the screen and all that.
Yeah.
But man, he's always consistent. He always gives a good kind of warm feeling to each character that he puts into, even in a smaller character in There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
And I mean the guy is eternally in my grace with Game of Thrones and Rome and what's that one show? The Terror. The
Terror?
AMC miniseries. That show's great.
You should give it a shot. That one.
You should,
okay.
Yeah, you should watch it at some point. It's on Hulu, I think. But it's fantastic. And yeah, I love Ciarán Hinds.
All right. My number 9, in the same vein of true thespians, is Jack Black.
I love Jack Black.
And I think... So I went back and forth about Jack Black because... some of these lists that we do, you can be really subjective and just pick the ones that you're well, these are the ones I personally like, or you can kind of pick the ones that you feel have had the, the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And I feel with actors and actresses, I went it's very subjective because when we were looking at directors, I almost wanted to go the opposite way. Mm-hmm. And I didn't put Steven Spielberg on my list then, but I kind of felt like I should have because just the impact he's had on movies as a whole, that legacy he's leaving behind. Yeah. And with actors, I was much more subjective with just I'm just going to pick the ones I want, Yeah. And so Jack Black, it's not I don't think he's necessarily going to go down with the same legacy that someone like Ciarán Hinds or Patrick Stewart or someone like that might.
But you just like love to watch him.
Again, it's like we were talking about with Kurt Russell, not like a manly charisma necessarily, but he's a very
charisma.
Yeah, he's a very charismatic person. He just, whatever the role is, even if the movie is not very good, he just brings something kind of very charming and magnetic to it. He's a very fun person to watch in any of the roles he's in.
Yeah. Love me some Jack Black. I wish I kind of thought of him more in this. So my number 8 is Cho Min-sik. I think it's Sik.
Okay.
He is Odesu in Old Boy. He's also the serial killer in I Saw the Devil. He's in like many other great Korean films. Absolutely love him. Yeah. He's so recognizable in a weird way. Ever since I've seen Old Boy, anytime I see him in something, I'm like, yo, it's him, it's Odesu.
Yeah.
But he always gives like a weird amount of brutality to he's not afraid to like pick these more like crazy roles, like in I Saw the Devil, where he literally plays like a rapist murderer. Like, he's a terrible person, but he plays him so terrifyingly, and it's genuinely kind of scary to watch him. Yeah. Or he's playing someone that's like scary but vulnerable in Old Boy. Like he's always got this like great range in him, and the guy can act his ass off. Yeah, let's be real. But, Cho Min-sik. All
right. My number 8 is Patrick Stewart, who I just brought up a couple minutes ago. But
spoilers.
And that was when I kind of went back and forth between a few of kind of like, the old gentleman actors, and
McKellen.
Yeah. And I ultimately chose Patrick Stewart because I feel like, at least personally, he has an edge there and just like the presence he brings to the screen. Yeah. Something distinguished that he brings that, I mean, not to discredit like, other like gentleman actors, but I feel like something about what he brings to, whether it be a big franchise like, X-Men or Star Trek, or something smaller like, A Christmas Carol. Yeah. He just has something that draws you to him. He's magnetic that way. Yeah. So my number 8 is Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, oh my god, the guy is eternally just fun to watch. Yeah. No matter what he's in. My number 7 is Paul Dano. Okay. Dano. Yeah. I think that he's like, again, another like, he's more of a younger kind of up and coming character actor, kind of like an Ed Harris or a Ciarán Hinds. Yeah. Which Ed Harris almost made the list. But he's again also in There Will Be Blood, and in like movies like Little Miss Sunshine, Swiss Army Man. Like, he's always giving like a really thoughtful performance. Kind of again like Cho Min-sik, like I was just saying, where like he can go from like this kind of ecstatic, more like kind of lost but boyish person in Swiss Army Man, to this like depressed teenage boy in Little Miss Sunshine, and then this like crazy evangelical preacher in There Will Be Blood. Like, the guy has no bounds on him. Yeah. He can do whatever he wants, and I absolutely love it. I just wish his debut movie for directing was a little better.
Which one was that?
Wildlife. It was all right.
All right, I didn't see that one.
2.5 out of 5, I guess. Yeah, it was fine. But,
all right, my number 7 is Taron Egerton. Who has not had a lot of time to shine yet. Again, kind of like an up-and-coming actor. But, I loved him in the Kingsman movies.
Yeah, he was fantastic there.
And so I was really excited to see what he did from there. And then he did Eddie the Eagle, which was kind of your standard, like inspirational, feel-good fare. But I liked what he did with it. Him and Hugh Jackman, I liked what they did with it. And then he came back with Rocket Man, which just blew me out of the water. Not just with his acting, but like even his singing. Like, even the way he sings is very close to Elton John. Like, that's awesome. Wow. That kind of method acting was just so good. Or not method acting, but like character acting. Yeah. And so he kind of quickly flew up the ranks, because every time I saw him, I was impressed with him specifically. Yeah. And just that versatility there of being, that kind of like that like Cockney kid from the Kingsman movies, and then going to Elton John, and just that seamless transition and being able to play them all so effortlessly. Yeah. He's quickly flying up the ranks for me. Yeah.
No, he's definitely been great. He's had like a really good decade. Yeah. My number 6 is Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Great choice.
He keeps getting noticed for his supporting roles, which like he gives amazing supporting roles. But a lot of these movies, I'd rather see him in like more of a leading thing. But my first like introduction to him was Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah.
In 2012, he was great in that. Absolutely fantastic, and he brings like a fatherly figure to him, no matter what he's in. Like in Moonlight, where he won his first Oscar, which well deserved. He was amazing in that.
Yeah.
He brought like a kind of a streetwise fatherly feeling to it. And that's like that warm kind of loving touch that he gives to these characters. I haven't seen Green Book. Heard it's pretty stupid, but I'm sure he's fantastic in it. I love him. He's great.
All right. My number 6 is Hugh Jackman, who again I feel like just the kind of breadth of his filmmaking, you know, where he can go effortlessly from playing someone like Wolverine to playing like a singing cowboy, you know, like he has such crazy versatility to the roles he takes on, and he throws himself so wholeheartedly into it. And he's one of the I mean, obviously I mentioned Patrick Stewart, but you know, he's one of those names on the list that like you mentioned Hugh Jackman, it's like everybody knows like, oh yeah, they've all got that signature Hugh Jackman role. For a lot of people it's going to be Wolverine, but then you know, it's like whether it be Oklahoma or The Greatest Showman or
Fountain.
Probably not The Fountain, but yeah, I'll let you have that if that's your favorite Hugh Jackman movie. But
mine actually might be a recent one in Bad Education. He was fantastic in Bad Education.
Bad Education was great. Reminiscence, if you saw Reminiscence, again, I feel like kind of a middle of the road kind of movie for me.
Yeah.
But again, he throws himself into these roles and he plays his part so well, regardless of what other people are doing around him. And I have a lot of respect for what he does.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love me some Hugh Jackman, some Huey. He seems like he actually cares about every single role that he takes. Yeah. Which is really, even if it's like a dumb little movie, he'll still like put everything he has into it.
Oh yeah.
My number 5 is Robert Pattinson, which if you asked me like a few years ago, never would have even considered him. But now, because of like the prolific indie, like lower budget, smaller movies he's been doing recently, oh my god, the guy is incredible. The guy is on fire with everything that he's been doing. Yeah. From The Lighthouse, like The Rover, even The King. Man, all these movies start with The Good Time. Good Time was the one that really changed my mind about Robert Pattinson. When I watched Good Time, I was like, this guy can act. And he, oh my god, it tells, you can see like the talent behind him in every single role he takes now. And I'm kind of excited to see him as Batman. I'm like, I don't know how well it's gonna work, but like, you know, it's Robert Pattinson, so I'm gonna be super excited. And I don't know, there's not a whole lot more I could say about him. He's changed his career trajectory so much. Now it's just like shooting onward. Yeah. And I'm excited to see him in literally anything now. So yeah, love me some Rob Pat. Yeah, and I love to, like, on screen he's doing really well for himself. Yeah. But I love that he's kind of starting to get that off-screen laissez-faire attitude as well. Yeah. You know, where before when he was setting up his career, it felt a little bit different, and now he's kind of getting to that point where he can like make fun of himself and you know, make fun of his movies and stuff like that. And he's fine with that. Like his personality off-screen has really blossomed as well. Yeah, for sure. But my number 5 is Anton Yelchin. Who R.I.P. Yeah, I was so excited for his career trajectory. Yeah. He's you know, just watching his movies, it made me happy. I like seeing him even in like his supporting roles and stuff. When he was in Star Trek, it was like, I love, you know, his part specifically. And I was always really excited whenever I saw his name pop up, even if he wasn't like the lead role, because he always brings something to the screen that I want to see. Charlie Bartlett. Yeah. All the way back to Charlie Bartlett. And then it was when I saw Green Room. I remember we were talking about Green Room earlier, and how it's fine. Like it's a pretty good movie, but you know, it's not like the mind-blowing experience that maybe but he's still like one of the best parts of it. Oh yeah, him and Patrick Stewart both. They both made my list, and I think they both deserve that. But unfortunately gone far too soon. Yeah, really, man. Because I was so excited to see a lot more from him. Yeah. But yeah, he's my number 5. I miss Anton. I remember when he passed, because me and Savannah are like huge fans of him.
Yeah.
So like when he passed, Savannah was like, "Oh no," and like said it, and we were both like, "Oh no," like kind of freaking out. It was it was a rough time. Yeah, I missed that, man. I did
that too. Whenever I was reading about it, I think we were at dinner. I read the article and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And Haven was like, "What?" And I explained it to her, and she's like, "I don't know who that is."
Oh.
Haven's not quite the movie buff that we are, but yeah, no, I had the same reaction. I just couldn't share it with anybody.
Yeah. Well, you can share it with me now, but
all right,
a few years later.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Brad Pitt. You know I'm a huge Brad Pitt fan.
Yeah.
The guy, he gets such a bad rep for someone that's only in like big blockbusters and doesn't really like have to care about the roles he's in. And then you go and you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then you go and you watch Inglourious Basterds, and you watch Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Yeah.
Like all these movies where he puts like so much behind himself.
Yeah.
Like the guy is like, he cares so much about the craft and what he's actually making. And it's blatantly obvious if you just like watch his roles.
Yeah.
But like people focus on these movies like Legend of the Falls or like 7 Years in Tibet. And they're like, "Oh, Brad Pitt. Oh, he's just a pretty boy."
Yeah, and he got a bad rap for those kinds of roles. But it's like for every Mr. and Mrs. Smith, there's also Seven.
Yeah.
Or even like 12 Monkeys. He's got these movies where you can clearly see that the potential is there, but he did pick up some of those pretty boy roles.
Yeah. And he did. I don't blame him for that. Like in his early career, I don't blame him at all for that.
Yeah.
But now it seems like he's really just taking roles that he cares about, and he's producing. His producing game is off the charts with the movies he's been making lately. They're constantly scoring Oscars and all that.
Yeah.
Like his production company's been great. Got a funny name though, Plan B. Come on, that's funny. It sounds like people are thanking the morning after pill.
And to be fair, it's like to a lesser extent, Tom Cruise did the same thing.
Yeah.
Like he's a little bit more one note in the movies that he's picking up now. He's definitely more of like that leading action man.
Yeah.
But he kind of did the same thing when he first started. He was taking on the roles that he had to take on to get his name out there, and then once he started establishing himself, he really like kind of came into his own.
Yeah.
Especially like with Mission Impossible. That's become like his namesake now.
Yeah. I don't really care much for Tom Cruise. It seems like he's more of like a franchise actor, and then Brad Pitt's like, "I'll just do whatever I want because I'm a movie man."
Yeah.
But yeah, Brad Pitt, love the man. Love everything about him.
Yeah.
Except he washed himself with baby wipes instead of like taking showers. That's weird.
My number 4 is Robert Redford. Just one of the most
Rob Red.
Yeah, one of the most charming actors you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, even whenever he's playing these roles that are supposed to be a little bit more despicable, he's just so hard to not like.
Yeah.
He just has this persona about him, the way he speaks and his mannerisms. He just seems like the kind of guy that you would just sit and talk with for a while, Yeah. You would just like meet him in a diner and have some pancakes and talk about life stories or something.
How's it going, Robert?
Yeah. And this dating all the way back to like his earlier days, whether you're talking about like his TV shows and movies from the 80s or whether you're talking about him now, it's like he's had such a storied career and he's leaving so much to Hollywood. Yeah. But it's like whether you're talking about like The Old Man and the Gun or Pete's Dragon and these movies he's got now, or whether you're talking about like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or The Natural. He's got like just all of these films across his career that just kind of exude this charming atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I like what he does.
Yeah, no, he's incredible. He's like you were saying, just like such a charming, maybe the most charming actor I've ever seen. Because the guy will charm the pants off of you. Yeah. Literally at like 85.
Yeah.
But
almost more so.
Yeah, right?
He ages like fine wine.
Yeah, really. But no, I love Robert Redford. Oh, I forgot to mention with Brad Pitt, Tree of Life. Another great Brad Pitt role that everyone should see. My number 3 is Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
Recently he's been kind of going the Robert De Niro route and taking roles that are like, just kind of easy, fun paychecks. It seems like he's having a good time doing, but not as like prolific as he was before with his like actual like in-depth character roles and all that.
Yeah.
But even in movies like that and movies like, if I think my the movie I think of when I think of like Samuel L. Jackson kind of just cashing in but still being amazing no matter what is Deep Blue Sea. I love him in Deep Blue Sea, even though he dies immediately. What'd you just drop? What was that?
That was a filter for my computer.
You fool. Anyways, I loved him in Deep Blue Sea, even though he died so quick. He was still like, he put so much effort into it. He's like so bombastic and like theatrical in like snakes on a plane and all that.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, of course there's Pulp Fiction, there's Red Violin, there's this is another movie that he was great in.
The one that always comes to mind for me as like one of his big cash-in movies was the one where he's like an evil suburban cop or whatever. Lakeview Terrace.
I have never heard of that.
It's Samuel L. Jackson and Patrick Wilson.
I hate Patrick Wilson.
And like, not only was it just wasn't enjoyable, but it was just so forgettable. And like the only thing I remember was like he was supposed to be like a cop, but the twist is that he turns out to be some sort of bad cop or something. Yeah. I don't even know much of the details about it. I just remember that at the end Samuel L. Jackson was supposed to be the bad guy. Yeah. And Patrick Wilson was supposed to be like the loyal husband trying to save his family from Samuel L. Jackson. But that's like that's all I can remember about it.
That sounds terrible.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. But I bet Samuel Jackson was having a fun time doing it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. He could also be terrifying, like in Jackie Brown. He is terrifying in Jackie Brown.
Oh yeah.
And in Django Unchained, he's also pretty terrifying. He's incredible. The guy is such amazing.
Like an intimidating force.
He gives a tour de force every time.
Yeah. Even whenever he's supposed to be a good guy, he just like
in
he's
Hateful
so powerful.
Eight, even though he's like way more gray. Yeah, I know, right? You're kind of like shaking your little boots when you watch him play. Yeah, he's incredible. Yeah, absolutely love Samuel Jackson. He was my favorite actor for the longest time. I used to have a Samuel Jackson shirt that I would wear. It had jewels from just his head from Pulp Fiction. I would wear it around school. Yeah, I don't think anyone got it, but you know, I love him.
My number 3 is Simon Pegg.
Yes.
Who, if you know me, that's not a surprise. And if you know his movies, that's probably not a surprise either. No. Again, just, you know, it's kind of a trend in my list with like Jack Black and Anton Yelchin and Robert Redford. He's just one of these people he brings something kind of magical and charming to the screen. Yeah. Whatever the movie is, even his bad ones. You know, he's done these movies like A Fantastic Fear of Everything and Paul and Kill Me 3 Times, I think it's called. Yeah. Anyway, he's got these movies that even whenever he's out of his comfort zone and out of his type a little bit, he just has like he brings everything to the role. Yeah. It's a little bit goofy and it's a little bit fun, but you know, regardless of whether the role is a good role or a good movie, he just brings everything to the table. And in his best movies, it's impeccable. He's got this specific brand of like just slightly overacting, especially like in his like Edgar Wright comedies with like Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, where it's a little bit over the top to where you would think it should be bad acting, but it works. There's something specific about the persona he brings that just works.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. Simon Pegg. You gotta mention Nick Frost though whenever you bring him up.
Yeah, no, they're kind of a package deal.
Yeah. But he's a great like comedic, but also like he can give a pretty good like dramatic performance here and there.
Yeah, when he needs to. Yeah. You see it more like in his franchise roles a little bit. He still kind of brings some signature humor to most of them, but even whenever he's performing against, you know, Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible or against Chris Pine in Star Trek or something like that. I was
thinking right when you brought that up again.
He has this way of kind of like bringing his specific brand of acting to these roles while also being a little bit less goofy.
Yeah, you're right. My number 2 is Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like he has had like one of the most underrated careers thus far. A lot of people remember him for like The Notebook and like Crazy Stupid Love and stuff, which like I don't think he's bad in.
No, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, because then you miss stuff like Lars and the Real Girl, or like
The Place Beyond the Pines.
Place Beyond the Pines, which he's the best part in without a doubt.
Drive.
I haven't seen Drive.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, but he also like Blue Valentine, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
and Blade Runner and like La La Land, all these.
Yeah,
like he's the guy has had a really, really great career so silently. People just like forget, like, oh yeah, Ryan Gosling is one of the best actors out there now.
Yeah.
But he's not just like this really handsome dude. He's a great performer.
The unsung hero of
Basically,
Hollywood.
yeah. He's taking one for the team the whole time. Kind of like Brad Pitt. He's kind of like a modern Brad Pitt, except like he's kind of, instead of taking like Brad Pitt also took like a lot of great roles when he was like doing more of the Beatty movies back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But like, it feels like Ryan Gosling has been way more consistent with it. And absolutely love him. Yeah. Great actor.
My number 2 is Christoph Waltz.
Oh, that's a good one.
Who he kind of has the opposite demeanor. He's very charming, but in almost like a little bit of like an off-putting, like intimidating way.
Yeah.
A lot of times. Sometimes on purpose, and sometimes just what he brings to the screen.
Yeah.
But it's always impeccable.
Yeah.
Whether it be, you know, like in Inglourious Bastards, where he's supposed to have that presence, or in something like Django Unchained, where he's part of this kind of like anti-hero father figure. But whatever role he's bringing, he brings it with just such gusto. He has something there that... like a quiet intimidation instead of being like Samuel L. Jackson, where he's like this big, you know, like he's intimidating because of like his size, his voice, there's just kind of the power behind him. Christoph Waltz has this almost like very quiet, like
silent but strong, kind of stoic. Stoic, that's what it is.
Stoic and almost like unpredictable. He has almost like this, he feels like a little bit of a wild card. You never know when.
In what's it called? In Spectre, I think he plays that pretty well.
Yeah.
He's probably like the best part of Spectre as well. Yeah.
So my number 2 is Christoph Waltz.
Fantastic. I thought about putting him on there too, but too bad he sucks, because you made a dumb list. No, I love him. My number 1, I guess we'll go to honorable mentions first.
We'll go to honorable mentions. So I guess I should also say, when we were making this list, I kept bouncing ideas off of you about like I should make like fake, like really offensive lists or really dumb lists. And so like whenever you mentioned like your list sucks, it reminded me that like if you thought this list sucked,
there could have been a way worse list.
Initially I had made like a top 10 list of just like really awful people who have been like blacklisted in Hollywood. I was like, oh, Harvey Weinstein's got to be on there. Louis C.K. has got to be on there. Yeah, Kevin Spacey. Woody Allen. And we were laughing about it, and then we were like, no, we can't actually make that list. But then we were like, well, maybe it'd be funny. But I ended up, you know, I made like my actual top 10, and we just kind of got into it. But I was talking about that, and then I was talking about making another list that was just the Chris's. Which, you know, you've got like your big ones in like the Marvel universe, but then once you get to like 4 or 5, you kind of start running out of like really big
like,
Chris's.
Oh god, where's another good Chris?
So then I started like just shortening other names. Instead of Christopher, I was like Chris Bale, like for Christian Bale, or like Chris Waltz instead of Christoph Waltz, you know, stuff like that. But I ended up just kind of going with my regular list instead of playing out one of these gags.
I do love the thought of doing it where it was all just like actors that have the same name as us. I thought that would have been really fun. Yeah. But there's like no famous Tylers or Garretts anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I was able to find like 2 Tylers.
Tyler Maine.
I actually knew. And even then I had to cheat a little bit because one of them was Liv Tyler. It's not the first name.
That would have been a good one. Oh, man.
But yeah, so honorable mentions. Would you like to go
Yes,
first?
I would love to. One of them, Michael Fassbender, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Christian Bale, Sam Rockwell, Idris Elba, Viggo Mortensen, Stephen Yeun, Colin Farrell, Hugh Jackman, Daniel Day-Lewis, Ed Harris, Kang Ho-song, and Javier Bardem are a few of them.
Yeah. You've mentioned a lot of the ones either in your actual list or in your honorable mentions that I was going to mention as well. Yeah. You know, people like Samuel L. Jackson and Leonardo DiCaprio are on my list. Morgan Freeman, Anthony Hopkins, Michael Caine I put on mine. I put Henry Cavill. I feel like he's one, sometimes I like his acting, and sometimes I feel like he's another one that kind of delves into that he's there because he's pretty kind of thing.
Yeah. I feel bad for him, though, with how people treat him. Yeah.
But I like how, just from a subjective viewpoint, I like that he's kind of jumped into this like nerd culture, like full on. And I have a lot of respect for the fact that, you know, he'll take on roles like in Mission Impossible and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then he'll also jump into The Witcher, and then in interviews he's like, dude, I love The Witcher. I play The Witcher all the time.
Yeah.
And you can see like his co-stars are like, are you serious? Like, he's just a nerd. And I'm like, no, this is great. Like, he's doing this role because he's really passionate about this character and not just for the paycheck. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I kind of feel bad for the reputation he's gotten a little bit, and I really appreciate what he does. I put Heath Ledger, Brad Pitt, Steve McQueen, not that Steve McQueen, the old Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
From like
not director Steve McQueen.
Yeah, Bullet, Papillon, The Great Escape, stuff like that. Bill Murray.
Armie Hammer.
Bill Murray I put on mine.
Yeah.
That's a handful of my honorable
mentions.
mentions.
That's pretty good, yeah. You want to move into number one?
Yes, you're number one.
So my number one is Willem Dafoe.
Okay.
Absolutely. The dude is probably the best actor I've ever seen in my entire life. I can say that wholeheartedly. Like, and it took me until like The Lighthouse to really notice. But then you have The Lighthouse, then you have like At Eternity's Gate. Again, he played freaking what's his name? Van Gogh. Yeah, he played Van Gogh, and who else can you think of to play Van Gogh other than Willem Dafoe? Nobody. And you have no one else can do that. And like you have such a more subdued normal role, like not as loud and bombastic like The Lighthouse as in like the Florida Project. Yeah. And like he'll take all these like lower budget indie films and just turn them into like, and I don't know how much he's getting paid for it. Probably not nearly as much as like other actors like Brad Pitt and all that, even though he's like at a way higher caliber than literally everyone else around him. But the guy seems like he doesn't care. He just wants to make movies and act and loves what he does. Oh my God, I just thought of him as Green Goblin and how amazing he is there. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
I mentioned to you a little bit back, I know you probably haven't done it yet, but he was just in an interactive thriller video game called 12 Minutes. That's also very, very good. It's just his voice, you know, but even then it's like, it's such an iconic voice and he plays it so well.
Yeah, he really does. The guy is incredible. You good?
All right. My number one is Michael Fassbender.
Ah, yeah. He's talking about him earlier.
Yeah, that's my number one, like, just perfect, immaculate, like, whenever I see him on screen, I can't get enough of it. Yeah, like, he's just so handsome, you know? I just look at him and I'm like,
oh, Michael.
Oh, my goodness. But, you know, like, he brings something to roles that even the other, I know I keep saying that, like, he just brings something to the role, but Michael Fassbender just has something, just a breadth of talent there that he can bring to such a wide variety of films, and it just works. Yeah. Whether it be again, like Inglourious Bastards, I know I brought up earlier,
the Snowman,
or the Snowman, or you know, something like Alien is like my favorite franchise, and then what he brings to Prometheus and Alien Covenant is just definitely so the best good.
Part of all those.
Yeah. Or, you know, even like you were saying, his lesser ones. Like, I know The Snowman is not one I was going to mention, but like Assassin's Creed, not a great adaptation, but Michael Fassbender brings everything he can to that role with what he's given.
It feels like he kind of takes roles that, like, even though everyone knows he's an amazing actor and, like, he doesn't need to take these roles, he still does them anyways, like Assassin's Creed. And all that, or like Aaron Eckhart taking I, Frankenstein. Yep. Like, it's just the weird roles that you wouldn't think he'd go for. Yeah. But he just does anyways.
Yeah. But no, so my number one is Michael Fassbender. Favorite actor.
That's a good one. All right. Let's transition.
All right. So with that said, we're going to be talking about Matt Johnson's movies today. We had his first movie was The Dirties, and then he did Operation Avalanche. There's one that we had talked about before that's kind of clearly a front runner based on everyone else's reactions, just the widespread reviews of these two movies. Yeah. And we'll see how that translates to our personal reviews. So first up is The Dirties. We rank our films based on a custom scale that we've made called the Webmaster Index.
That he made. No, he can't give me credit for it. He thought of this entire thing forever ago. And he just said it to me, and he's like, what do you think of this? I'm like, well, it's awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
So I wrote the Webmaster Index a while back. It breaks movies down into 10 categories based on their technical domains, and each category can get up to 10 points for a final score of up to 100 points. So the minimum that they can get is 10 points. And we run through each of the categories and talk about them a little bit before moving on to the next one. And then at the end, we give our final webmaster score based on the culmination of all those 10 domains.
Yeah.
So first up in webmaster, it's an acronym. Webmaster starts with W for writing. It says, is the film well-written, clever, and cohesive? Are there plot holes, cringeworthy dialogue, or unmotivated moments just to squeeze in a gag or sexual encounter? For the Dirties, I gave it a 9. I think that while I didn't necessarily like all of the dialogue that was being said, it all felt genuine. It all felt very suited to these characters. I feel like he's written characters that were supposed to be high school students that I felt like actually sounded like high school students that I went to high school with a long time ago. And you can't really ask for more than that. The dialogue was all very genuine and believable.
Yeah. I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Because I think the dialogue between Matt and Owen is fantastic. And I have absolutely no problem with any of that. But where it kind of falters a little bit with me is the side characters, mainly the Dirties. And how like I don't really, it doesn't sound, sometimes their lines don't sound like things that people would actually say.
Yeah.
That does get me a little bit. But no, like overall I still love it without a doubt. And I think that like even knowing that it's like most of it is improvised and there's kind of like free balling it the whole time, makes it so much more fun and interesting that they were able to like piece this together and make like an actual really good cohesive movie with it. It's incredible.
Yeah. Next up is H for heart. Some movies revel in their own bad intent. We watch movies with heart to make us feel things. Does it compel us, inspire us, or make us think? Do we learn or grow from it, or is it forgettable and or too despicable for its own good? For the Dirties, I gave it a 6. And I think one of the big things, one of the common complaints that I hear about the Dirties is just how abruptly it's over. How there's like kind of like a minute or two of climax, and then it's just done. It doesn't feel like it resolves the way some people wanted it to. And it is definitely a divisive ending, but it can pack a punch for the right person. And I think I was probably the right kind of person to watch it and, feel something at the end. And it also leaves a question up in the air, which I'm not going to delve into here in case you decide to watch it. But it does leave some things up in the air, which some people like, and some people just want to say, no, I know what happened. But I think it subjectively, I think it worked. But from a filmmaking standpoint, I can definitely understand some people's complaints about it not feeling like a satisfying climax either. So at its heart for me ended up being a 6.
Yeah. I gave it a 10 for heart.
Okay.
Because listening to interviews and hearing Matt Johnson and Owen Williams talk about it and the producers and all that, they put so much behind this and they just wanted to make this movie. And they cared so much. And these characters that they were making, not only like kind of talking about like relevant issues in today's society in more of like a digestible way for most of the movie, they're also like, based on themselves in a way and how they would feel and react in certain scenarios. Yeah. And that kind of genuine feeling behind it really carries a lot for me. And as you were saying, I'm one of the people that finds the ending very effective. Yeah. Seeing him, like Matt, kind of fall into this sort of psychosis in a way. Yeah. And divulging into this time where you don't know if he'd be willing to take the life of his best friend or not. Yeah. In that scenario. Or if he just thinks that everything's fine and that there's not a problem with what he's just done. Yeah. And I find that very effective, and it really does get to me. So yeah, like I think it's incredible. So yeah, 10 is great. I love him. Yeah. I love the heart.
So next up is A for acting. This category covers the performances by at least the primary cast members. I gave this one a 6, and I'd like at least 5 of those 6 to go to Matt Johnson. Yeah. He throws himself into this role, and I mean, he's written it and directed it for himself, and he does outstanding with it. Owen does fine. Owen Williams does fine, but you can tell he's not quite up to the same standard that Matt Johnson is. And then everyone else is basically just fluff. They're just all kind of there. The only other like really kind of primary one that I can think of is their teacher,
Mr. Muldoon.
Yeah, who they show the movie and they're trying to talk to him, and his acting is not good.
I didn't mind it.
It didn't work for me. I felt like it was a little bit clunky. It felt like someone, like an amateur actor trying to read lines. And, you know, beyond that, it's all like little bits and pieces that you can tell they just kind of coach people on, say something kind of like this. The girl that Owen likes and the Dirties, like you were saying, are kind of eh. And so I gave it a 6, but like I said, I think primarily I want those points to go to Matt Johnson himself.
So I gave it an 8 because I think that, again, like you were saying, Matt Johnson is incredible. I think Owen Wilson also carries...
Owen Wilson?
Can you imagine Owen Wilson in this role? Owen Williams, I think, carries like quite a bit in this film as like sort of the straight man to Matt Johnson's more like zany character. And also thinking about him as like not an actor, I'm pretty sure he's a public school teacher, and he just did this movie with his friends just to be in the movie with his friends. Same with Operation Avalanche. I think that he does well here, especially when he's like getting into moments where he's starting to like question Matt and kind of like not fall into whatever Matt's trying to make, being in this like whole movie universe that he's stuck in mentally. I think that comes across pretty well, but where it falls apart for me is the Dirties. And Chrissy H with Krista Madison, who I'm pretty sure all of them are also not career actors anyway. So like I can give them a pass, but like it is a noticeable disparity between like the main two and then the Dirties. Like in the scene where the Dirties, like Ellen accidentally makes them spill their lunch and he gets mad at him. He's like, clean that up, stop playing your grow the fuck up, and then have a good day, and like walks away. Like that wasn't very good. They're not very good, but I think that since we get mainly just Matt and Owen, I'm very happy with it. And I actually like Mr. Muldoon in it. I thought he was good. Yeah, I liked him. But he's again a very like small bit role. But yeah, based purely on the top two, like the two main actors, I thought it was pretty great.
All right, next up is production design. Do sets and costumes fit the genre and time period? Does makeup portray the situation, or does the beaten down hero still look perfectly coiffed while lying in the dirt? This one, I just gave it a middle of the road. You got to give it some credit for the micro budget that it had to work on. But I just gave it a 5. You can't really fault it. I mean, it all works for what it's supposed to, considering the setting is just kind of like modern high school setting. But I mean, it comes with the territory. There's not a whole lot to be wowed by either. You know, they wear jeans, they wear hoodies, they walk around in a school and in a suburban neighborhood.
I gave it a 9.
What?
Because so this is partially because of my love for Matt Johnson. Because in all of Matt Johnson's movies, he wears those pair of jeans. In everything that he makes, even the show, he wears those pair of jeans. And he says that they're like falling apart and they have to make like stunt replica pairs that he wears whenever he does like some stunt thing on Nirvana the band The Show. But so I that carries like so much sentimental value for me. And then with the schools, I just love the look of the schools for one thing. And also I like the fact that they were so willing to like go to legit 10 different schools to make this movie. The set of the basement where Matt and Owen hang out. I love that, how it just kind of perfectly portrays Matt's world of being stuck in movies. And like when he's like ruffling through these VHS tapes to try and find the right one to put in, where they're trying to fake that Owen's at a party. He's on the phone, and you see like all the posters on the wall. There's a Requiem for a Dream poster. There is on there. The whiteboard with the Dirties and all that, and how they make the string thing with all their pictures. I love that. And also I just love the setting that they're at in Canada. I think it's a very beautiful area. It looks very nice. Maybe I'm kind of going a bit far with this one, but I genuinely love it. No, I mean, that's great. You know, that's why we watch movies. Different movies impact different people differently, and that's why you know, neither one of us are super into, you know, certain types of movies, but we can still respect the fact that
there is a market for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because we don't like them doesn't mean that nobody should like them.
Yeah,
you know, our reviews
definitely.
are our reviews because this is how we feel about these movies, and that's so there is that disparity, but it's kind of a beautiful disparity.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you find meaning and passion in a movie that I might not, and that's great.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, so I sure it's kind of lacking on a $10,000 budget, but I thought what they did,
Considering the budget,
yeah, like conception wise and being able to fit all that in there, I loved it a lot.
yeah. Next up is M for marketing. Many movies give away too much or not enough in their trailers, use poor music choices, or just don't do enough marketing to get people excited. Were we excited to see the film, and why or why not? I gave this a 7. I think it's... Watching the trailer, it felt a little bit deceptive, but also really intriguing. I don't think it was deceptive in a way that would have made me watch the movie and be disappointed.
Yeah.
But it was deceptive in the way that it kind of disguises what kind of movie and what kind of twists it's going to have when you're watching it. And I think that's really a mark of good pitching.
Yeah.
That they were able to make a trailer that perfectly portrays kind of what you're going in to see without giving away anything.
Yeah. I gave this one an 8, did I? Yeah, I did. I like the marketing. I like the posters that they made for it. I'm not too crazy about this one right here. I'm not insane about it. I think it's fine, but I like a lot of the alternate posters that they have. Like the one that I used for the thumbnail for this video. I like that one a lot. And I watched the trailer for it. I thought the trailer was like really fun. Like when it started off with it, I feel like it kind of dragged a little bit and made me kind of like, I kind of wish this was over now.
Well, and I will, unless I just missed it. What I marked points off for was it felt like there were moments in the trailer that just straight up weren't in the movie. Not that they were like used deceptively, but it felt like they added some footage to the trailer that I don't remember even seeing in the movie.
I don't recall that much, but I only watched the trailer once, so. But yeah, and I felt like they kind of did give away like a little bit in the trailer for me. But then I've already seen the movie quite a few times. But when they're like, well, what if we actually kill them?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm like, okay, well, that this is a whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it doesn't like give a whole lot away with it. But yeah, 8 is fine.
Next up is A for audio. This category covers orchestration and song choices, other audio, and whether it enhances or elevates the film. I gave this a 6. There's nothing bad. But I don't necessarily know that anything stood out for me.
Yeah.
I think the song choices they used were solid. But it, again, I guess probably just considering the budget they were on, it also just kind of suits the atmosphere of what they're doing with the school setting.
Yeah.
But audio was just kind of that was fine.
Yeah. I gave it a 10.
Okay.
Because like I thought that it lended a lot really well to the kind of like homemade movie feel.
Yeah.
Where they use the lav mics and they would like talk about the mics. They'd be like, put your mic on and all that so that they'd know. I think it put you more into that world of like these are two kids trying to make a movie.
Yeah.
And within a movie. And I absolutely love that. And like you were saying, the song choices. I like that they did a couple of songs that like the Kid Cudi cover. I like that they used that in that because that's very unique. And you can tell it's just stuff that Matt Johnson liked to listen to.
Yeah.
Like when he brought up Best Coast in an interview, he said that he genuinely just liked Best Coast. In that moment where he ran up to Owen, he's like, oh, what if we do this with the Best Coast thing? That was like not part of like the script or anything like that. He was genuinely just saying that to Owen, talking about like when they made the like we're in the editing thing trying to make it. That's what he was referring to. And they just kept it in and then added the song and all that.
Yeah.
Plus I love the song. So yeah, like I think it's like super charming. A lot of this kind of falls back on me knowing like the behind the scenes things for it.
Yeah.
And just being in love with like the process that they went through with it. But yeah, I think the audio is great.
Yeah. Next up is S for shooting. It's the cinematographer's job. Is the cinematography eye-catching? Do they have a specific color palette? Is there a reason they used it to enhance the movie? Does the camera work enhance the scenes or make them unique? For this, I gave it a 7. I think considering the budget, it was done really well, but also because the budget and I think, because they were limited on the scenes that they had, there's kind of the inherent shortcomings of that and just the inherent shortcomings of this kind of like, not found footage, but I guess that's kind of the genre you would drop it into this kind of POV footage, mockumentary footage, I guess, that they've gone with. That plays well within the context of the movie, but also you struggle whenever you use that as well.
I also gave it a 7, and I love that they, even when using these like low budget, frankly like shittier cameras, they still went to like kind of interesting areas to like get these angles, and also like in the moments where they were trying to copy movies and all that, they used like different angles that you'd see in a movie, but it's like clearly just a cheap knockoff of it. I love that. But moments like when Owen is trying to like walk past both the Chrissies and like doing his Malcolm X walk, how they like have him in the like the cameraman in the other room, and he's just kind of like panning the camera back and forth like between them and all that. I love that. Also gave like a very like homemade movie feel, and like how you can tell in certain shots they just kind of like put him wherever they could get him. Like in the shot where Matt was getting mad at Owen because he was shared cake with the Dirties, you could tell like the cameraman was like up and above, kind of like looking like he's on a staircase. And they're like, this is just the best place we can get for him here, so let's just put him there. It's just kind of, it's charming to me. It is. And I find that very like interesting, like the path and like decisions they chose to go with it, just purely off of like the necessity they had for like what they were given to shoot this.
Definitely. Next up is D for directing. Perhaps one of the most important elements, the director makes sure the movie comes together. Is it effective at conveying a tone, message, or visual that the director intended, and can you identify them by their good or bad habits when filmmaking? I gave directing a 9. I think that this was pretty much exactly what Matt Johnson intended through and through. The tone, the message, the atmosphere was 100% Matt Johnson. For better or for worse. And it's super identifiable and super effective.
You will never see anyone else making a Matt Johnson movie. No. I gave it a 10. Okay. Because not only like what you said, where this is just clearly his vision and he made it the way he wanted to. But also because in those moments where it is kind of like, it is the unscripted points where he's like in the moment where he brought up the Best Coast song. That's just his genuine passion. Just there. And he's like super excited. He's like, oh, we should do this and all that. He's like getting very hyped up to like make this movie. And that's one of the fantastic things about this movie and about Operation Avalanche that I really loved, is you can tell, we've talked before about some directors that aren't really jaded, that really have a passion for the craft. Matt Johnson just loves movies. You can, through and through, in both of these movies, you can just tell he loves what he does. Just so emphatically passionate about the entire craft of filmmaking in every aspect, whether it be his actual filmmaking process or the way that he writes his characters to also kind of be into the like movies and stuff. Whether it be more upfront in the Dirties, where he's always talking about movies and what's inspiring him and stuff like that. Or even in Operation Avalanche, where he talks about like the behind the scenes stuff with Stanley Kubrick and stuff like that. You can just tell that he loves what he does. He, even in interviews, you can tell he's not faking it, because in all the interviews he's exactly the same. Exactly the same as you'd see him in the Dirties or in Operation Avalanche. He loves his craft. He loves what he does. And it bleeds through in the image, and I love him for that. Like the guy, he's incredible. He's born to make movies. You could tell. Perfect. 10.
Next up is E for editing. Does the movie have a visual rhythm? Does it flow well, keep the viewer engaged, and scrub bad performances? Which angles do they decide to use when cutting between cameras? This, I gave it an 8. It moves fast, and it's an eminently watchable movie. It doesn't, like, some of the acting feels amateur, but this does not feel like an amateur film, considering the budget that it had. This like we were talking about with directing, this feels like the movie that he wanted to make. It doesn't feel like he made a bunch of concessions to get this made, and he had to like edit and scrub and kind of scramble things together. It felt like he made this movie very confidently, even with this micro budget.
I gave it a 10 because I love the different ways that they kind of like cut through the storylines, how they'll like use scenes and show you the scene, and then they'll like show Matt Johnson reacting to what happened when he's editing the movie inside of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he turns back and talks to his cameraman and all that, breaking the fourth wall. It's so, I find it just so interesting. And another thing that I absolutely love. Oh, he also edited this movie himself with Evan Morgan. Another thing that I love is that I didn't notice the first couple times watching it, but this time I really did. Is that like there's this impending doom and dread feeling that kind of builds up throughout the film.
Yeah.
That the editing really does a great job with, as it feels like the breakneck speed kind of slows down after a little bit, and it does begin to slow, but not in a way that makes it dull in any way. And it really does build that fear coming up, like, what is Matt gonna do?
Yeah.
Is he going to do something that he shouldn't be doing? Something that's going to be like terrible and shocking. Yeah. And when you do get to that moment, and also the choice to like cut where they did at the end, incredible. Like I feel like it's immaculately edited, and like he knew what he wanted going into it. Yeah. And he made it exactly the way that he wanted to make it. Yeah. Also tying into directing again. Like, I'm gushing over Matt Johnson right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a 10. Yeah.
And finally, R is for reflection. This is the most subjective of the categories on the list. It's simply a gauge of how much we enjoyed the film because of or despite the rankings we gave in all the other categories. For The Dirties, I gave it a 7. I did really enjoy it, and I think it was effective, but when it was over, I didn't feel too strongly about it. And even after having a few days to kind of reflect on it, I don't really find myself excited to go seek out more Matt Johnson, but I would have no problem watching more Matt Johnson either. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't one of those where I came out of it like, man, I am super stoked for more of his stuff. So it's a 7 for me.
Yeah. I did come out very excited for it. Like the first time I saw it. I've seen this movie like 3 or 4 times now. Yeah. But I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 9 because I think it's about as perfect as you could get it considering the budget, but because of the budget, it does have those drawbacks occasionally. Yeah. And so, that is a 9. My overall score was an 89. Wow. Which is about on par because I had it already rated on IMDb and all that as a 9 out of 10. Yeah. So it's like kind of fell right into it.
Almost right on point. Which is funny you should mention that, because for my reflection for just how much I enjoyed it, I gave it a 7. And my final Webmaster score tallied together was a 70.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so...
Fuck you.
Right on point.
Wow.
Whatever. But no, I mean, it's really well done, and I respect what you were saying about it. Yeah. It's just for me personally, it didn't work quite as well as... Yeah. Yeah. So with that said, that's our Webmaster score for The Dirties. Next up was his second movie, Operation Avalanche. Which is a much different film, but very told different. In the exact same like documentary style filmmaking.
Very much more ambitious. Yes. Very much more ambitious. Not so actually a little in story wise, because like The Dirties is such a taboo subject with school shootings and all that. Another very taboo subject is like faking the moon landing and everything, like government conspiracies. And he's just like bouncing between these subjects, and I love that. But let's get into it.
All right. So first up, W for the writing. For writing, I gave Operation Avalanche a 6. It's the concept I think is more intriguing than it was for The Dirties. Yeah. But it's also a little bit less relatable and less engaging for me at the same time. That kind of down to earth feeling of The Dirties made it a little bit more interesting for me. Yeah.
I felt kind of the same way. I give it a 7.
Okay.
Because I think that they have moments where exposition is just kind of dropped on you. Yeah. And it doesn't really happen in The Dirties. But I understand why, but, it doesn't do much for me. And that kind of does draw it back a little bit. But it's hard to tell this big of a scope of a movie in, like, an hour and a half the way that they're trying to do it. Yeah. So I understand like why it would come off that way, but like it's, and like you were saying with The Dirties, it doesn't have that like kind of homemade feel to it that makes it feel like a little bit more intriguing. But like, at the same time, I still do like love the writing by Matt Johnson and Josh Bowles.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is pretty good, above average.
Yeah. Next up is H for Heart. I gave Operation Avalanche 6 again. It was exciting. It was interesting, but I feel like it didn't really stick the landing, which that wasn't supposed to be a pun. I didn't think about that until after I said it.
All right, Elon.
It was fine. It was an enjoyable film, but I didn't come out of it feeling real strongly or like feeling like I had really learned much either. It was less impactful than the Dirties.
I gave it a 10 again because I think it was. I agree with you that it was definitely less impactful and didn't have like the same kind of like, you didn't get the same love behind both the characters that you got with the Dirties. More so because Owen Williams just seems like way more of like a second fiddle to Matt Johnson in this one, where it's mainly just Matt Johnson. And I love Matt Johnson all the way, but it doesn't have as much heart. But I still like, again, with like all the passion and love put behind it that you can still feel in this movie, because like on this small of a budget, in this scenario and how they're deciding to do this, they make a freaking period piece. Yeah. And they pull it off really well. Yeah. That's so interesting that he's able to do that. And I think like having the heart and like ability to be able to pull that off really resonates with me. So yeah, I think it's a 10.
Next up is acting. This category covers the performances. For acting, I gave it an 8. I think almost unanimously everyone is better in this movie except for Johnson, who is consistent with his excellence in the first movie.
He thinks he's not a very good actor.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I think the way he does things is very naturalistic. It feels like a real person. Yeah. But yeah, so for me that one was an 8. I liked the performances in this one pretty much across the board better.
Yeah. I gave it a 7, mainly because of Josh Bowles. Okay. Who played I think his name was literally Bowles. They call him Bowles.
I think so, yeah.
But I did not think he was very good. I thought that he sounded like he was talking through like one of those cartoon characters. Yeah. And like kind of playing the stereotypical CIA agent. And I was not very interested in his role. And I wish that they didn't put him in it more and had more of Owen Williams in it instead. Yeah. I like that dichotomy that they had in this one more. But overall, still, like, I think everyone else did a very good job. Yeah.
Next up is production design. Do sets and costumes fit the genre and time period? I gave this one a 9. I think that this one being a time period or a period piece, and still considering it was a relatively small budget. Yeah. They did really good at making me believe that this was set in the 60s. Yeah. It was done really well. Everyone looked the part and played the part. And even the places that they were at, the locales and the space suits and things like that, everything looked really good.
Yeah, for sure. No, I gave it a 10. I think that like you were saying, being able to pull off this period piece, keeping in shot, this would probably tie more into editing, so I'm gonna stay out of that. But everything they were able to pull off with the costumes and the sets and everything, and the cars that they use, feels very genuinely 50s. And not once do you really get a hint that it's any other period. Yeah, I absolutely love that. So yeah.
Next up is M for marketing. I gave the marketing an 8 as well. I think I really liked the trailer and the pitch for this movie. Yeah. And I want to like it even more than the Dirties. I mean, spoiler alert, I don't know if I necessarily did like this movie more than the Dirties. Yeah. But based on the pitch and watching the trailer, I wanted to enjoy this movie more than the Dirties.
Yeah. I gave marketing a 9 because, like you said, I absolutely love the trailer. Yeah, I think the trailer is super interesting. It gets you like hyped up for it. Yeah. The editing is super fun. It feels like occasionally they use different angles for shots than they did in the movie. But I don't mind that at all, really. Yeah. Because like it's clearly the same shot, just like a different perspective. But I like that. Absolutely loved the trailer, and I like the poster. I like the poster quite a bit. I like the press that he did with it. If you ever seen Nirvana, the band, the show, there's an entire episode about him sneaking this movie into Sundance, but completely swapping it out for a really bad movie that he made with his character in the show. And everyone should check that out. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 9. It's pretty great.
All right. Next up is A for audio. I gave the audio a 6. That's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
It all works, but nothing really stands out for me. But I think that's partially just the trappings of the film again. It kind of bugged me that at the end, is it called The Fortunate Ones?
The Fortunate Son.
Fortunate Son?
Silver Spoon Son or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, that song I feel like is already overused in films, and considering his kind of his love and passion for the craft and his kind of unique take, it almost disappointed me a little bit that he went with just kind of this generic like song that I've heard in every movie before.
Yeah. I gave it a 10 because I actually like really, I felt like they didn't do a ton to like change the audio from how they did with the Dirties and make it sound more like staticky with you know the different time setting and all that. But I feel like they did a little bit, and I enjoyed that. And I like the music they put into it. I think that it was like edited very well into it as well, like how it was put in and placed well. I like that it would occasionally like seep in from like actual images in like that they're watching in the film, like with Trip to the Moon, that old like 20s movie. And how like the score for that seeps into like the actual movie itself. And starts playing. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I love the audio in this movie.
Okay. Next up is S for shooting. I gave the cinematography an 8. I think that this documentary style that he's kind of specializing in works really well here. This kind of like fly on the wall shooting experience is kind of perfect for this style that he's going for.
Yeah, for sure. I gave it an 8 as well because like again, you're super limited with what you have, but having this like the different filters on it to make it look old, which like they pull it off really well. To like add that grain to it. And also how like they shoot certain scenes, how they choose to shoot them, like when Matt is like, you know, choosing to bury the film canisters. I think that's like shot exceedingly well, which is like kind of fun to like see it juxtaposed to like the rest of the movie where it seems like it's definitely shot like on the fly. And then you have moments like with the car chase, which is like an amazing car chase, and we'll talk about that more in editing, but I thought that was shot so well and like so well choreographed with it. I thought that was great. But again, like you're super limited with the angles you can get and like, you know, anything more out of it. They're really using the style, but still like they do it to like the max that you can really get with it.
Next up is directing. This one I gave a 6. I think what worked for me really well in the Dirties didn't quite work as well here. I think that kind of like relatable, more engaging approach in the Dirties was a little bit of a downfall here for me. And maybe if I hadn't seen the Dirties so recently beforehand, it wouldn't have hit me so hard. But I think I'd be more interested in seeing Matt Johnson take a film like this and shoot it in a more traditional style instead of doing it like documentary style. So for me, the kind of signature Matt Johnson look and feel kind of wore on me in Operation Avalanche in a way that it didn't at all in the Dirties.
I gave the directing a 10 again.
Okay.
I think that he's like so passionate and so loving with what he makes that like I can't help but give it a 10. Because like again, you're seeing him on screen playing the role that he made and saying like the words that he put into it. And oh my god, it seeps through and like it makes me excited watching him. And I feel like in the Dirties, you definitely see a lot of Matt Johnson when like he's making the movies and all that. But in Operation Avalanche, you see kind of a more mature version of Matt Johnson. Where he's like talking about the technical side. And being like into the into like the more like the deeper cut aspects of filmmaking. And again, like the fact that he's made two of these movies about him making movies inside of movies, like, that's so fun. And like, again, showing his passion for it, and again, like this vision, making a 50s period piece where you sneak into NASA. They literally snuck into NASA and like interviewed actual NASA scientists and all that to make this movie is like so outrageous, and only Matt Johnson could pull it off.
Yeah,
only he can make this movie again, and I think he makes it exceedingly well.
Yeah. Next up is E for editing. I gave the editing on this one 6. I think both of these movies are short.
Yeah.
The Dirties isn't even an hour and a half, I don't think.
It's like an hour 23 or something.
Yeah. And Operation Avalanche was just over. It was like an hour and 34 or something like that. But this one did feel a little bit longer and less necessary.
Yeah.
Where the Dirties felt like so expertly paced and every moment felt like a good part of the movie.
Yeah.
This one, I do feel like, even at only an hour and a half, I feel like they could have cut a little bit and made it even more effective.
Yeah.
I feel like the pacing didn't quite work as well.
Yeah. I understand that. I give it an 8 because I agree that it's like definitely slower paced in certain moments, but I also feel like that's kind of put there on purpose, as it's not only just this kind of funny mockumentary thriller, it's a spy thriller as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of slower pace lends well to that. But also it does have moments with where the editing is kind of weird, like and the composition, like composing people into shots is kind of weird. Like when Matt and his cinematographer were in I think it was Andrew or Andy were in the mission control room. Yeah. And like they're both clearly like poorly composed into there and not actually like in mission control.
Yeah.
And then there's also moments where like they use actual like stock footage from the 50s. Yeah. To kind of like put you in that feeling, but you can tell the difference between like their footage and the stock footage. Yeah. That does get to me a little bit, but then you also have moments with the car chase, which is so insanely well put together. Yeah. Like that car chase blows my mind that they were able to pull that off, and Matt Johnson did the actual driving in it too, which is so cool. Yep. But yeah, like it I think it's a couple drawbacks, but really insanely well done for what they're going for. Yeah. And finally, R for reflection. For Operation Avalanche, I gave it a 5. It was a fine way to spend an evening, but I don't think I'm gonna go seek it out again to watch it anytime soon. I gave it a 7. I definitely seek this one out less than the Dirties. Yeah. But I do enjoy it and I do have fun with it. And I probably will watch it again or like own it on Blu-ray at some point. Yeah. But yeah, my overall was an 86, which really surprised me because I thought it was going to be in the 70s. Yeah. It came out to an 86.
Okay. And my final score came out to a 68. Just below the Dirties. Yeah. Which is kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, they're consistent at least.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, that was our deep dive into Matt Johnson and his couple of movies that he's got out so far. Is he working on anything new right now? Does he have another movie in production or anything?
He has been talking through ideas and stuff. He wants to make another movie with Owen Williams, and they would make like round it out as like a trilogy, kind of like the Cornetto trilogy. Yeah. But that hasn't been put into production as far as I know, and they still are trying to figure out a legal battle with Nirvana, the band, the show, because like it was on Viceland Canada, and then that dissolved, and they only got 2 seasons out, but they have the 3rd season already shot and basically done. But it's like, how are they going to release it? Who gets the rights and all that? So they've been trying to figure that out for like a long time. But that's where they are right now.
All right. Next week sounds like it's going to be a little bit busy, but our plan right now is to go see the new Halloween Kills, and we will talk about at least, I guess, probably the newer Halloween movies, Halloween and Halloween Kills. Yeah. And at some point, probably not next week, but over the next few weeks, we were talking about maybe talking more about the Halloween franchise as a whole. And also, our question for the week is, we looked at the top 10 movies on IMDb, and, you know, it's rounded out with the ones you would expect, like The Godfather, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King,
and Fellowship.
And Fellowship of the Ring, Shawshank Redemption, movies like that. You know, it's the top, regarded as the top 10 movies of all time based on IMDb ratings. And we're going to take those and we'll list out the top 10 in the order that they are in on IMDb, and then we will rank them ourselves based on how much we personally enjoy them.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we are
Almost dropped something. So it shook the table and everything.
With that in mind, we are done for the week, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
See ya.